We're joined here by head coach Phil Neville. We'll open it up straight to questions. Yep, Fletcher.
Coach, you've had a chance to watch film from Saturday. Obviously, congratulations on the win. What, if anything, do you feel like you learned about your team after Saturday?
I think we went up against a really good team that over the last 3 years, everyone's been saying how good tactically they are and the players, the VPs they've got. And we came out of that game with the 3 points. So I think that's a really good start to the season for us. Tactically, I thought the team was, they executed the game plan really well. We outnumbered the opposition in a number of areas. And we managed to keep going right to the very end. We showed great perseverance and character. So it's early days, but I think coming out of that game, I think what people are probably underestimating is how good a team Columbus are. It was a really good end-to-end game with a lot of good players on the pitch. It was a fantastic game of football, and we came out on top.
6 of his 16 goals as the Portland Timber. Him or me? 6 of his 16 goals as a Timber are against Colorado. How excited is Anthony to face this team and also with another attacker sort of prove himself in that starting lineup?
Yeah, I think I think you get as a player, you get some teams that you tend to have really good form against. Anthony and our wingers in general have done well against Colorado, but it's a new Colorado team, new coach, played a different style. And, it's a new season. I always say that you can't take anything for granted. Our players have got to go out there and they've got to perform. They've got to perform to a certain level. They've set some standards and expectations now that they can't fall below. And I think I watched the Seattle game versus Colorado. I thought Colorado performed really well. And, their coach, I've obviously followed their coach for a long time, but his coach and plays a very distinctive style of football, brave, courageous, and we're going to be at our absolute best to get a result. Colorado.
In Colorado, you're not just playing the team; you're playing against the altitude and the conditions. So, how have you been preparing for like the 60th minute as players start to get a little more tired more quickly?
Well, I think a couple of things about playing at altitude. People say about, the 60th minute. I always think it's probably the first 15 minutes where you're probably gasping for breath. There's the flight of the ball that's different, in terms of the trajectory of the ball. It has more and get more distance. It flies through the air. I think the warm-up's crucial when you go to altitude. It's no different in Salt Lake than it is in Colorado. Probably Colorado's probably a little bit worse. Maybe is it higher in Colorado, I think. So I think I remember playing a pre-season game there. Like I say, it wasn't the last 30 minutes that was my problem. That was the only 90 minutes of my problem. But it was the first 15 minutes was where I was like, you have to go through that period of thinking, I don't know how I'm going to survive. The airs obviously you're struggling for breath at times. And then you go through that. And I also think that we can't use the altitude as an excuse. We've got to keep the ball. We've got to make the ball good. We've got to make them. We've got to make sure that they're the ones that are struggling for breathing, not us.
Adam?
One of the big position battles that's interesting to me is the center back next to Finn Serban. Obviously, you have a lot of experience there with Kamal. What's sort of that deciding factor between Kamal and Alex?
Well, I think if you look at the spine of the team, I think they've got competition in centre back, centre midfield, and centre forward. I think those are the real key decisions I've got to make this weekend. We haven't got many games before the break, so it's important that we keep everybody on a certain cadence. I think the team that started last week did a fantastic job, but the players that came in, I felt really helped us win the game of football, and Kamal was one of those. Joe Ortiz was another. Ali Lassiter was another, and Kelsey as well. So I think we've got a small squad, so that means that the decisions are more magnified. And I think it's fair to say that for the centre backs to stay in the team, which should be like Kamal on the bench at this moment in time, they're going to have to play at a really high level because Kamal is an international class defender. He will go to a World Cup in 3 months' time. And it's the same with the 2 midfield players. It's the same with the centre forwards and wingers. We've got a competition for places, and it's really magnified with the fact that we've got a small squad. But it's at this moment in time, the small squad, I think, is a massive advantage.
Patrick.
Coach, going on the road, just based off of week one results, you guys would theoretically be the favorite coming into this game against Colorado. How do you handle that mindset and get your team ready to kind of play in that role when maybe at times it's been a challenge for the club in the past?
Yeah, I think away form on the road is something that we have to be better at. We want to be successful. We want to be competitive, and our road form has to be better. I want to see consistency. Big thing this season, I want to see consistency in everything. Their behaviours, their attitudes, the system we play, the selection that we do. I want consistency, and I think it does. I think when you get that consistency in all facets of the performance, then I think you get good results in the process of that. So I think that's what I'm looking for. My expectation is that I want them to perform better than what they did again. And that's the demands we've been putting on them this week.
Okay, we'll take a few questions in Spanish.
Hello, Coach. Thank you. Sí, mi pregunta es en español. Con la incorporación de Alexander en la nómina de los Timbers, ¿cómo espera usarlo e introducirlo en la dinámica del equipo?
Yeah, and sí, estamos muy felices con el fichaje de Alexander. Hablé con él hace 3 semanas on Zoom. Es un chico bueno. Hablé con Pipe Mora antes de la conversación. Pipe dijo muchas buenas sensaciones sobre Alexander. Es un jugador que en este momento en nuestro plantilla no tiene este jugador, tipo de jugador, un jugador que juega en una posición diferente. Tenemos tres extremos muy rápidos. Alexander le gusta jugar en los espacios entre las líneas. Para mí esas cualidades son muy importantes para nuestro estilo. Tuvimos un jugador se llama Santi Moreno. Es como Santi Moreno. Los huecos entre las líneas. Para mí es un jugador que en este momento no tuvimos antes. Ahora tenemos un jugador con mucha calidad, muy joven, con mucho gusto para rendir. Y estoy feliz con este fichaje.
Okay.
Gracias. English, my friend.
Okay. Appreciate that you speak Spanish. I really do. La pregunta era también sobre, con la llegada de Alexander, ¿tu equipo ya está conformado completo para el sistema que tú quieres jugar o todavía hace falta otro jugador?
Siempre como un entrenador, yo siempre quiero más jugadores, más calidad, pero en este momento a mí me gusta la plantilla pequeña porque todos los jugadores están felices. Pero Alexander es un jugador que mi opinión es falta un 10 en nuestro sistema porque David de Costa está lesionado, pero Pipe Mora jugó fenomenal en los últimos partidos. Entonces estoy tranquilo con esta posición, pero Alexander juega en el 7, el 10, en el 11 también. Es con muchas oportunidades para afectar nuestro estilo. Entonces, él tiene mucha habilidad, con mucha cualidad, mucha energía en nuestro partido. Entonces, tenemos esperar para el visa en este momento, pero cuando Alexander entra en el campo, ojalá estés bien, pero ojalá los aficionados de Portland, yo creo que están felices.
Phil, buenos días. Quería preguntarte acerca, regresando un poco al partido contra Colorado, si pudiste hablar con Cole acerca del partido. Sabemos de que él viene de ese equipo. Te contó acerca del planeamiento que tiene el entrenador para los partidos, cómo atacan, qué estrategias usan para saber cómo juegan los partidos en el Rapids.
Sí, es un partido muy difícil fuera de casa. Siempre en MLS los partidos fuera de casa son difíciles, pero para Cole y también para Ian Smith, porque Ian Smith, toda la familia de Ian Smith viven en Denver también. Entonces, es un partido muy especial para Cole, para volver una organización muy importante para Cole. Pero mi experiencia cuando volver un club es siempre tiene que concentrar en el partido. 90 minutos y después, sí, es una oportunidad para dar gracias, para ver la familia, pero antes del partido, Cole quiero ganar. Eso es muy importante. Cole quiero ganar este partido más que otros partidos en la temporada. Entonces, es un partido difícil contra un equipo con un nuevo entrenador, con un nuevo estilo de juego. En mi expectaciones es contra Columbus, jugamos un buen partido. Y contra Colorado, necesitamos dar más.
Okay, we're going to wrap it there. Thanks for the time, Phil.